Hello, BookTube. This is, in a way, also a Hello AuthorTube video because it's partly a NaNoWriMo update, but it reflects on something that I have said on this channel for the whole time that I've had this channel, and also in endless book discussions long before I had this channel, long before BookTube or YouTube existed, long before computers existed, which is my contention uh, that not only has there never been any kind of effective sex scene in a work of fiction, but that there really couldn't be. I've got a lot of grief from this over the years. I have based this on two, I think, readily observable facts. So I don't really know where the grief comes from, except for the human penchant for self-deception and sentimentality, which is boundless. One of those contentions is that it's going to be a little touchy for some of you, but one of those contentions is that the act itself is not graceful. It's not anything that can be made graceful by the best description in the world. It is, there are acts in the world that may feel good or be biologically necessary or both that cannot be gussied up. Think about sneezing. There is no way to import excellent literature, excellent prose into a description of a sneeze. That's one thing on which I have based my contention. And the other is that there is no way for a sex scene to convey anything. So it's not just the description that fails, it's also that it can't be a working part of the novel or short story. It can't be a working part of a narrative because all the elements of a narrative, motivation, personality, dialogue, they all go away. I'm not talking about romance, and I'm not talking about the lead up to a romantic evening, nor am I especially talking about the epilogue. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about the bread. I'm talking about the meat, so to speak. There's no way to do it. There's no way to avoid double entendres, but believe me or not, I do have a point here. Now, in the time that I have been saying that I've been making this contention on BookTube, several of you wags have suggested that maybe the reason why I'm so convinced of that has nothing to do with literature and everything to do with certain urban legends that are connected with people of unmixed Irish descent. Several of you Weisenheimers have pointed out that perhaps someone of, let's say, Italian or, God forbid, Greek heritage might say something different. I don't believe that's true. And also, how dare you? I honestly think that what I'm saying is correct, because if it weren't, I would have come across at least one example that is the exception to the rule I'm talking about. I would have come across at least one example that is done right, that is done well, that is done, I won't say entertainingly, because I have come across many examples of what I'm talking about, the kind of scene I'm talking about, that are done entertainingly, but it's a particular kind of entertainment. It's not all across the board. It's stimulating, but it's not stimulating your mind. I have come across many scenes that were effective that way, but I have to confess, when I've read those scenes anywhere in any kind of book, the kind of scene that I'm talking about, even if the author is making it stimulating, I have to confess, and again, I don't think this has anything to do with unmixed Irish ancestry. I have to confess that I'm usually tapping my toe. I'm usually waiting for it to end, even if I acknowledge on some level that it's well done. I'm still usually waiting. All right, okay, you've got a vocabulary, you've got good pacing, et cetera, but can we get back to the issues on the table between these two people or between their two respective spouses? Can we get back to that? Can we get back to the plot, to the drama? Because the plot and the drama necessarily stop right in that scene and then pick up again when the scene is over. It can't help but feel like a digression to me. It always has, even when I admit that the scene is stimulating. Maybe that's the way that these scenes can be done well. But not done well in any other way. Not done well in the way that I've often heard them defended, especially long before all of you were born, by proponents of the great monstrous mid-century misogynist who once dominated the literary landscape. Uh, Harold Robbins, Norman Mailer, Kurt Vonnegut, John Updike, people like this, Philip Roth. They're defenders, they're literary defenders in uh, published venues and also in literary conversations that I had at the time. Often said, no, 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 no. That I see your point, but when these guys do it, they raise it to the level of artwork. They don't. And it was then that I developed the theory that it can't be raised to a level of artwork. And the reason it's on my mind is because of NaNoWriMo. It's because of a writing update that I want to give you, a writing update about my NaNoWriMo project, The Winding of the Way, which in broad strokes, which in outline is about a giant tentacular non-human, an alien that is not even remotely hominid, that finds a way to represent itself as a human on Earth and begins to have a relationship or not, begins to have dealings with or not with a human young man. A very familiar template. I'm taking it straight from tentacle literature that I started reading because of Autumn Amour. I started reading that in depth. I've now read, I think, more tentacle literature than anybody on BookTube, and maybe more than anybody on BookTube should. And that's a staple. It's a staple of that kind of literature that that a giant tentacular monster will be encased in a human body or take on a human body. There's always that element first. It's never, man sees squid, love at first sight. It's never that. It's that there's an appearance of two humans at first. I wanted to honor that. I set up an elaborate science fiction setting to do that. But I knew that at some point in The Winding of the Way, right now, right about now in NaNoWriMo, right about the end of the second week, I knew that I was going to have to try to write a sex scene. Not the lead up and not the epilogue, but the actual thing, the actual thing that is often the centerpiece and sometimes the only piece of tentacle literature that I have read. I knew that I was going to have to do that. And I kind of sort of looked forward to it, right? If you have a long-standing belief about something, I've had a long-standing belief that it is both impossible to do a sex scene well and also useless to do it well. It's going to be a digression from your book no matter what, no matter how you do it. I've had that belief for a long time. What better way to challenge it than by trying to do it and see if I can prove myself wrong? I knew that I was going to have such a scene, and I've mentioned in an earlier Stevestream that a couple of times so far in the writing of The Winding of the Way, I was getting close to a scene like that and stopping, finding something else to write about, something interesting, something between characters to write about. But after a while, I realized, I mean, my word count is good. My NaNoWriMo is going quite well, and I am looking forward to it every day. When I look at the vista of the day in front of me, writing my story, writing my section, 1,700 words for Winding of the Way or more, uh, jumps out. It's a bright spot, and that's what it should be. It shouldn't be a chore. Uh, it's going well. My word count is going well, but I have been avoiding that scene. And now I'm wondering, am I avoiding that scene because I'm justifying it to myself? I keep telling myself, no, it's not worth the effort. Or am I avoiding that scene because I don't think I can do it? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't actually tried. Oh, wait, there's a chat. Michael K. Vaughn says, geez, I thought this was a stream about Steve's perfect abs. Now I'll never know his secret. Oh, the secret's easy. 202 sit-ups a day on an incline. And the correct kind of sit-up. where you shouldn't be pulling with your arms or with your shoulders is what I'm talking about. You shouldn't be pulling with your arms or your shoulders. So feel around for your scapula, those wing bones at the bottom of the back process of your shoulder joints. Feel around for the bottom of your scapula. If you were doing your sit-ups correctly, your scapulas will be the only thing that come off the floor. The rest of you won't. But anyway, Jack O'Hara says, "Hello, Steve. What does tinence mean?" No, no, no. It's a joke in the title of the video. Abstinence, abs, and then tinence, abstinence. Uh, oh, view from the bars here. Good lord. I love looking at the profiles of Amazon readers who, with a smiling Christian family photo on their default, write a 500-word review of erotica. Retired men invariably. Well, you could be a little less judgy. Mhm. You could try importing a little bit less of your vicious, fierce Calvinism into the chat. That reading guy says, not shirtless again. What's up with false advertising? My subject, so to speak, is shirtless. I don't know if that counts. Uh, let's see here. Monet Doyle says, I have read a lot of romance books, but tentacle romance. It's an acquired taste, I'm perfectly willing to admit. Shannon Sales says, what is your opinion on Ivy Compton Burnett? Should I seek her out? Oh, definitely. Definitely you should. View from the bar, finding Steve's writing was easy for about a week. Then suddenly there were riddles in my emails, phlegmy phone calls, damp envelopes. It's been a trial. I hate to say it, but you have only scratched the surface. It's a large amount of writing. I especially in the modern era. In the modern era, when I finally returned to book reviewing, I looked around and saw, wait a minute, you get a 20 something tech kid to set up some sort of blog. You can write whatever you want. You can publish every day. No longer a question of sending this, to the Somerville Gazette and asking, what are your rates? Would you mind? I'd really like it. I'm passionate about this. None of that. You can just do it yourself. And since everybody else is online, that's where it would die, but it doesn't. Since everybody else is online, it's easy to do. I don't know what will happen to the health of that ecosystem if Twitter crashes, because that's where people did the sharing primarily. It would have to be somewhere else. Mastodon looks complicated. Maybe it's not. I'm sure it's not. And what complication it has probably is a good trade-off for the fact that it's open source, that it's infinitely customizable, that you won't be drowned in lies or liars, uh, or dumb hot takes that you aren't able to modify. It could be that learning a little bit of complexity is a good trade-off for that sort of thing. But Twitter used to be where you would write something on a blog, and if you had a healthy enough following on Twitter, you could get it in front of, at least potentially, thousands of people. Once I saw that, the writing increased very much so. uh, let's see here. Greg Strawn. I don't think I know that name. Have you been on the stream before? Come for the bodice ripping, stay for the Bodleian references. Jasper says, what will replace the vacuum? Twitter will leave if it does collapse. It's TikTok. I hope it's not TikTok. I hope not. Talk about going from bad to worse. I have no idea. But one thing I do know, one thing that I'm fairly sure about, is that if you care at all about this subject, if you're involved, if you're on Twitter, or maybe have been on Twitter for years, you should do a very simple thing. Go to Google and type in, how do I download my archive, my Twitter archive? It'll give you a step-by-step thing. Twitter and platforms like it don't want it to be easy. It is a little bit complicated, but that data is all yours. And if you don't take it, if you don't download it, I mean, the download process is isomorphic. So you're the only one who can download your data. So if you do, you can prove that it's yours. I wouldn't let it sit there in cyberspace, especially not when the lights might not come back on this company. Jack says, how do you know so much about sit-ups, Steve? Well, uh, I wasn't always the decrepit old Hulk that you see before you. And also, I have spent an enormous amount of time around incredibly vain, incredibly sculpted young weightlifters. An enormous amount of time with them over decades. They have gotten older and lapsed into heterosexuality and had children, but there's always a new crop that isn't that way yet. And so I've learned a lot about the right and the wrong way to do things. Not that it matters to them, because now they only care about blowing up on Instagram. That's all they care about, and they'll do whatever they have to get that. They'll do whatever they have to get a Gymshark sponsorship. And unfortunately, whatever they have to means they have to look freakishly unreal in photo after photo after photo after photo after photo all the time. They have to look like hypertrophied androids all the time. And there's only one way to do that. Unfortunately, there's only one way to do that, or there's only one shortcut to do that. Certainly, there's only one easy way to do that, and it's really, really bad. It makes them hypocrites right away. It makes them hypocrites right away, but they do it. Uh, but anyway, let's see here. Shannon says, I remember watching a video of an old interview where Barbara Cartland accused Jackie Collins of writing smut. Cartland was an interesting character. Yes, she was an interesting character, if that's your euphemism for uh, no blue M&Ms in her bag, no dogs barking in the kennel. She was nuts. As you would pretty much have to be to write as much as she did. You pretty much have to be nuts. But that interview is hilarious. It's the past not understanding the present. It's the present not venerating the past. It's just two ships passing in the night. Just wonderful to watch. And that kind of phenomenon is not over at all. CM Lady says, Mastodon has been an ordeal. I think I'm too clueless when it comes to tech apps. Well, no, you're not. If I'm not, you're not. It's not. It is an ordeal compared to Twitter. But keep in mind, one of the big reasons why Twitter is not that kind of an ordeal is because Twitter is explicitly evil. So maybe, like I said, maybe a little bit of an ordeal is worth it to stop dealing with a company that is explicitly evil and that is definitely using you. You are contributing so much original material to this company that only hates you. It is only using that material in bad ways. Twitter is designed on 6 or 7 different levels to make sure you keep using it. Mastodon's not. It wants you to want to keep using it, but it's not trying to trick you. It's not trying to trick your basal brain into keeping using it. It might be a good idea. Who knows? There might be an alternative. I've been waiting because this is kind of a micro catastrophe, this little thing. It is another example of the thing I mentioned about COVID-19, which is that we live in history. We live in history being made. Twitter's had gigantic historical impacts on the world and on all of its users in one way or another. I know almost no casual users of Twitter. I certainly stopped being one during the Boston Marathon bombing, when one of the suspects, one of the bombers, was on the loose. One of them died. He ran over his own brother, but one of the brothers, the younger brother, was unfound. He was at large, and I was following that story, refreshing the feed every minute on Twitter. As fast as the refresh would happen, I was refreshing it. Not losing my critical faculty, still keeping track of who's reporting nonsense and who's not. This was before there were just this tsunami influx of evil bots. So there was almost nobody explicitly lying about it just for fun. But there were all sorts of mistakes, lots and lots of false leads. But the news programs were utterly useless with something like that. Same thing is true with earthquakes or flash floods. People use this site for a lot of practical uses, and we are watching its collapse. And we're watching its collapse solely because of a comic book style megalomaniac supervillain. Something out of a Hollywood movie where he got red pilled. He watched a lot of videos about what we should do with these SJW entitled snowflakes. Boy, oh boy, what we should do. First of all, get into the company and fire every one of them. Only he has $250 billion, so he did it. He didn't just watch those videos and stew while he's playing video games. He did it. He bought the company and fired everyone. Literally living out a red pill fantasy of paranoia and owning the libs. And as a result, he is almost certainly going to completely crash a site that we all held in common, a site that millions and millions of people used. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on like that. Jasper says, Steve, what is the best flavor of Sour Patch Kids? I prefer watermelon. Oh, the word sour is right in the title. What's wrong with you? Have a gigantic glass of red wine. Why don't you? That reading guy, where is Frida? She is the only one that matters. Of course, you're going to love the look of this. I mentioned in a recent video that as she gets a little older, she is less tolerant of cold. It is not cold in this apartment. It's a little bit on the chilly side, but it's cold outside, and she has resisted going out. She doesn't. Not just has she not brought it up, she hasn't wanted to do it. Uh, and when she got up on the couch here with me, she has no interest in being on her pillow. It's too cold. But when she got up on the couch, she insisted. She just stared at me with that tiny little raccoon head of hers, and insisted that I position her correctly. So she wanted to be cocooned. She wanted to be cocooned in blankets and pillows so that she was as warm and snuggly as could be. Monet Doyle says Jennifer Snow writes spicy books. Yes, she does. That reading guy, would you consider Google an evil company? Well, Google hides a lot, and typically in the tech world, the more you hide, the more evil you are. Google does a lot of good for me. Certainly, I use Google Chrome. I use Google as a browser. I use Google as an information source. I use it as a storage place. If Google were bought by some insane megalomaniac and trashed, I'd have a lot of adapting to do. Pisa Darman, I don't think I know that name either. Which Larry McMurtry novels would you recommend apart from Lonesome Dove? Well, his other great novel is Moving On. But the Thalia books, the Thalia Texas books, the Horsemen Pass By or that sort of thing, are also really sharp, really, really good. If you want another Western, definitely stay away from the Lonesome Dove, the other Lonesome Dove books. Stay away from them. But he wrote a book, a couple of them. Buffalo Girls is really good. And also he wrote a book on Billy the Kid that is also really good. And of course, I recommend his nonfiction, too. he wrote nonfiction that's also very, very good. Jack says, I was mortified when Mary McCarthy made fun of sex on the Jack Parr show. Like with you, I put it down to the Irish factor. She was pointing out, or trying to, what a point that she often made in private over wine and calzones. and the joke was, this is an Irish thing, but it isn't an Irish thing. If it were only an Irish thing, then objectively, someone would be able to show me an example anywhere. I've read fairly widely in my life. I've never come across an example. Great stuff leading right up to, and great stuff right after. But there are authors, male authors, as often, who insist on describing what not only can't be described well, but is utterly pointless to describe. Trish says Frida has the right idea. I'm cold too. She's not cold. She's just being a pampered baby. That's all. You should have seen her about an hour ago. It was just her little nose that was sticking out. That's all. She just made a little peephole so that her nose could breathe, and that was it. She's such a drama queen. Oh no, the Spaminator is here. Wahahaha, what are we doing? We're talking about sex. Yep. Hence the low numbers. No, I opened by talking about the roadblock that I have hit with NaNoWriMo, with my NaNoWriMo story, The Winding of the Way. I am getting to the point now, only got 2 weeks left, if that. I'm getting to the point now where I'm either going to put up or shut up. I'm getting to the point now where I'm either going to write at least one sex scene, explicit sex scene, or I'm going to say that I'm going to write this book without them. And that will feel like a failure. I know that's weird, and it's probably not true, but that will feel like a failure. To write a book like this and not include a scene like that, I don't know. It seems like that's one of the reasons why I would do this. It's like having writing a Star Trek story and not including the transporter or something like that. Uh, Trish says, I'm a delicate flower girl. Well, so is my bean. Or she didn't used to be. When she was young, she was hardy, but she does not like the cold. It's more pronounced this year by far than it was last year. I don't know why that is, and I don't know if she's going to get over it. But the Spaminator says, "Sex, I know about sex." Oh, do you indeed, my dear? Jasper says, "Sex is evil." No, no, it's a bodily function. They don't come in moral tones. Bodily functions don't. But writing about it, there I might agree with you. Jack says, "Do you find the intimate scenes in Moving On are well done?" The intimate scenes, yes, but I'm not talking about the intimate scenes. I'm talking about what happens right after the intimate scenes. I'm talking about what happens as more or less, you could say, the culmination of the intimate scenes. I don't know why authors insist on taking you that far. If you're reading Laverne Murtry, you're an adult. You can figure out what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes. You don't have to have it narrated blow by blow, as it were. uh, let's see here. Arcasia says, I remember you mentioned that you wanted to reread Summa Theologica. Have you come around to doing it yet? Uh, if so, can you give some thoughts? I haven't done it yet. No. Meant to do it, haven't done it. There's so many books that I get in the mail. So many. Matt Sheridan says, Howdy, Steve, and hello to my fellow Donahue disciples. Well, there aren't many tonight, and that's good because this can't be a long Steve stream. Uh, and no cracks about Irish heritage. Thank you very much. Deep in the Read says, maybe it would help if you listed your top favorite sex scenes in fiction and think about why they worked. I don't have one. That's my whole point. None of them have ever worked. I've never read one that works. And that leads me to believe, that has led me often to think that that means they don't work. Just fundamentally, they don't work. And I understand why they wouldn't. They cannot further the plot, they cannot deepen character, and they cannot be described gracefully because the thing you're describing is not graceful. So I can understand why I have never read a successful thing. And yet, now that I'm right on the precipice of either needing to write such a thing myself or admit that I can't, I don't know what to do. I feel like I should try, but I don't know. I don't know. That was the conundrum on my mind, was abstinence from a sex scene, which I've done so far. I have come close. I've had my characters come close to it 2 times so far in the story. And both those times, according to the kind of vague mental plot I had in my head, that was the time that I was going to try it. And both times I just decided, no, no, more interesting to write something. The next 1,700 words should be about something else, something that deepens the plot, something that's interesting. Uh, Marcel says, Hi, Steve, just got here and I'm feeling sorry for the guy who asked on the other stream for them to be a little earlier. Yes, yes. Well, I couldn't do the stream any earlier today. I think I will try an earlier stream uh, on Monday. I think. I don't really know. I've got my deadlines are in wild flux in anticipation of Thanksgiving, and that's just going to get worse in anticipation of the big year-end holidays. So I will try. I will see. Nick Picarilli says, "Oh, Sex Cauldron. I thought they shut that place down." The Spaminator. My wife's the one that gave me the name, the Spaminator. Indeed, boring repetition. Oh. Jasper says, don't tentacles one's work. Don't tentacle one's work. Particular scene? If they do, I haven't figured out a way to do it. I haven't figured out a way to do it. My characters come from completely different worlds. That is the element of tentacle literature that has always confused me. If you have characters coming from completely different worlds, wouldn't they have more important things to do and talk about? Wouldn't they prioritize other things? And now I'm at the nub of doing that, and I'm having the exact same thoughts. It's just, why would I do this? Why would I do this? It feels to me as dumb and perfunctory as if I were to stop a scene where one of my characters drives up to the house of another one of my characters. If I were to stop the scene and write 7 pages about the car. And car people will say, well, there's 7 good pages about a car. I mean, there's great ways you could do that, but there isn't. A car is a boring machine to get you from A to B. it, every time I get to it, I think, well, but why would you bother to do that? So it's an exercise. That's all. Uh, Matt Sheridan says it's a spicy Friday night stream. Well, it's not going to go on for long. Keep in mind. But yes, yes, because it's all about one particular kind of scene that I am I confirming in my mind that it is useless to try and write such a scene, or am I justifying the fact that I don't think I can do it? I It's an essential NaNoWriMo question. Uh, Deep in the Read says, "What if you wrote a sex scene and played it for laughs? Make it over the top and lean into the reasons sex scenes don't normally work." Well, I thought about that. I thought about subverting the whole idea, but the template I'm working on, tentacle literature, tentacle romance, tentacle porn, very much does not support suborn the whole idea. They take it very seriously. So it feels a little bit bratty to do that. On top of which, every time I've ever seen someone write such a scene for laughs, it hasn't been funny. It hasn't been any good. Male writers especially have in their novels from time immemorial, at least since the 1940s, have come to some sort of universal decision in a meeting I was not invited to that they have to do this scene. So if I got to do it, I guess how am I going to do it? I guess I could play it for laughs, or something like that. None of the approaches work, and it feels also wrong to do. It feels wrong to laugh at something that is the only part of tentacle literature they don't laugh at. Jeff Messerman, oh my God, my producer is here. Now would be a good time to check to make sure you are all subscribed to CPL Radio, CPL Radio's YouTube channel. We just hit 400 subscribers. Love to see that get to 500. But what does my producer have to say? Surely you're not calling me to work. New podcast, orgasm of the day, big money, SD, let's do lunch. Ugh. Yeah, I'll get right on that. See, that's the problem with you. You're always ejaculating new ideas. The Spaminator, the most effective sex scenes in books to me have pulled away from the gratuitous stuff and let your imagination wander. But right, but your imagination is already engaged when the characters are leading right up to that moment. And your imagination is going to be better than the author's version of that moment. So why does the author ever bother to include that moment? it's, that's what I don't get. That's what I just don't get. How many of you? Probably some of you have seen the Katharine Hepburn movie Summertime, where she plays a high-strung American who goes to Venice in order to have a Venetian experience, and she actually meets a Venetian man, a very attractive Venetian man, and they're on a balcony and they're looking at out over the canal, and then the camera cuts to her shoes on the balcony and fireworks over the canal, and that's that. We're not. There's no reason to go into the bedroom, none at all. So that we don't. I and well, that movie was not uh, tentacle. There was nothing tentacular about it. Matt Sheridan says, "Are there any good books on Mary Todd Lincoln?" A few. There's not. It's not an interesting story. It's not an interesting story. There was a really big one a few years ago that an editor wanted me to review. I said I'll do it if you really want me to do it. I'll do it. My answer is always yes, but I can come up with 5 recommendations off the top of my head that our readers will like better, find more interesting than One President's Crazy Wife. Endlessly dissected. And fortunately, that editor went for it, or I would have had to write about that. Jack says, "Surely it can character build. Say if they were good or bad at it." No, nope. Name an example where it builds character if they're good or bad at it. It's a total crapshoot. It's totally random. I have known people who had the charisma of a stone in the garden who were great at it. I've known people who could charm the paint off the walls who are terrible at it. It doesn't impinge on character at all. The lead up, yes. The aftermath, maybe. The act, no, no, not at all. You check out during the act. which means makes it feel like a pointless digression to me. Makes it feel like like a character's driving up to another character's house for an important confrontation, and then I am duty bound by the rules of some guy writer fraternity to spend 7 pages writing about the car before I cut back to the scene. It's just that is what it has always seemed like to me. I have never seen an example of it not being like that, and so I'm thinking, well, I'm not the greatest fiction writer in the world. I'm not the greatest fiction writer in the room. So, do I think I'm going to do any better than that? No. And if I know that I'm not, well, then anyway. John Petter says, "Who is the worst sex writer you think?" Haruki Murakami is bad, but they're all bad. I don't know of anyone that's ever done a job that wasn't embarrassingly bad, and I've read a lot of them, a lot of them. The Spaminator. Look, if you don't find tentacle groping funny, I can't help you. The groping I find funny. The lead up I find funny and enjoyable. That has been very enjoyable to read, to write rather. The lead up. I've had the lead up a couple of times now. It's just what follows that. I want to just draw a curtain over it and basically tell my reader, you can guess. Although the justification, I've been in touch with one writer of tentacle fiction, only one, who did not agree to do an interview on my channel, unfortunately. But because it, naturally, I should have guessed, the books are written under a pseudonym. No one knows, and no one can know. That makes sense. But I talked to one of those authors who said, and I made this point. I said, it's. I feel like I want to draw a curtain over this whole thing and just tell the reader, well, you know what's coming next. And the author that I talked to very wisely said, no, that's the whole point of this, is that this is not normal. So the reader doesn't know what's coming next. Deep in the Read says, the only good sex scene I can think of is in the novel when a character had trauma from earlier sexual assault and their partner helped them work through it. There was more going on than just sex. Yes, and the more that was going on was happening before and after. Uh, Jeff Messerman, the late Peter Straub, wrote a blazingly hot sex scene in his fine book Mystery. Seriously, my tongue was flopping on the floor like a dying trout. I read that book, bub. There's nothing blazing hot in it. It's a fine book, but I think I know the exact scene you're talking about. You might have been young and impressionable. If you were to reread it, I think you would be embarrassed on his behalf, as I am now embarrassed on your behalf. Matt Sheridan, I'm thinking about making a story of Boston Corbett hunt for Booth, and I want it told from Corbett's point of view would be the Irish version of the story. Corbett's point of view, which would be insane. Okay, but Matt Sheridan, weren't you the one who had the idea about John Wilkes Booth in the bar? Looking back on his life, looking back on the high and low points as he gets slowly more deranged by alcohol and anger and resentment and fear. And when he leaves, we know what he's going to do. Wasn't that you? Yes, it was you. Okay. You need to write that story. Why you aren't doing that for NaNoWriMo, I have no idea. That is a really good story. You need to do that. And you need to be working on it today. You don't need to, you shouldn't be waiting. Oh, God, you people, you drive me crazy. Jack O'Hara says, if a charming person is not good, then they aren't so charming. No, 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 not at all. It's meaningless. That's the whole point I'm making, is that the 15-minute thing I'm describing is meaningless. It is meaningless. It has no effect on a person before or after. So charming person is still charming and the charm still matters. It, Deep in the Read says, my pick for worst sex scenes I've read are in Stephen King books, the scene with the kids in It, especially. Well, yeah. Well, there aren't any good scenes in a Stephen King book of any kind. So, but yeah, I agree. But they're all bad. I don't know. In order to say this is the worst, it almost sounds like there's a gradient, and there isn't one. As far as I know, as far as I've ever seen, there isn't one. It's when you can reliably predict that a good author will write bad prose. That you can reliably predict it in that circumstance. Uh, Andy Curley Books. I'm reading The Historian after your Vampire Starter Kit. I'm finding the pacing to be a struggle. The author builds some tension, and then there's 100 pages of architecture and cafes. Thoughts? Yes, it is very much an old style atmospheric book. You encounter that with The Historian. You encounter that with The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. You have to sort of get into the mind frame of it because the author is well within their rights to do it that way. They don't have to make it a roller coaster ride. What the key yardstick is that slower, more ruminative, everything but the kitchen sink approach done well because it can be done very poorly. I think it's done very well in this story. Uh, Jack says, "I'm confused." There's so much to be confused about on this Steve stream that I don't doubt it. Uh, Andrew Russell says, "How much longer do we have in your delectable company, Steve?" Not long, not long at all. I know I should be a real streamer here. I should go on for 6 hours. I should vape constantly during the stream, just constantly, just literally never stopping, except maybe for words because I've got something in my mouth. I should have gigantic foam headphones with a big brace across my head because they all want to be Joe Rogan. And the headphones aren't attached to anything. They just you should have those. I should call you all guys over and over and over and over again. I should call you guys, you guys, you guys, you guys, you guys. I should be doing those three things, four things. I should be streaming for 6 hours at a time. I should be vaping the whole time. I should be calling you guys, and I should have an enormous rubber headphone over my ears. But I'm not doing any of those. I'm not a real streamer at all. Uh, Matt Sheridan says Salem's Lot and Misery were very good. Okay, but you're changing the subject. You have a great story to write, and you're not doing it. Why? Why aren't you doing that? I don't understand that. Not in all the time that I've been teaching and coaching writing have I ever understood that. I don't understand that. Why? No one else has written that story. Anyway, Andrew Russell says I've just joined the stream. Well, the stream doesn't have that much longer to go. I'm thinking an hour, but not much longer than just about 8 Steve time. Uh, the Spaminator says, "Want to talk horrible sex scenes?" Richard Lehman. That's a conversation for later at night, isn't it? Jasper, Steve, what are your favorite drama TV shows? You mean right now? Right at the moment? Right at the moment, Tito? That would be Andor. Never thought I would say that about a modern Disney Star Wars production. Never. Oh, but the last 2 episodes, on the edge of my seat about whether or not we're going to learn the details of how a main character does her banking. You know that it's a good show if you're on the edge of the seat because of something like that. Exquisite writing, exquisite acting. The acting is unbelievable on the show, even in the minor characters. It's like I said in an earlier video. If Diego Luna is a very talented young actor, if he's the worst actor in your show, you've got a great ensemble cast. Just right now, it's Andor. Andor, and I cannot praise it strongly enough. I cannot praise it enough. If you are at all a Star Wars fan, I would be willing to bet this would work even if you weren't a Star Wars fan. But don't let it get swamped in with, I guess, the technically well done but boring House of the Dragon or the disastrous Rings of Power. Don't let it get lumped in with that. Don't think all of these streaming things are all terrible. It's great. It's just great. Uh, let's see here. Jeff Messerman, Ballard's Crash, perhaps. Twisted Limbs, Twisted Metal, Fireworks. No, no. You can look for as long as you want. You won't find it. It isn't there. Andrew Russell, 24-hour Steve song. Next week, Steve, do you cover so you cover all time zones. 24 hours. Vaping the whole time with giant rubber headphones on my ears that aren't blocking any sound and aren't connected to anything. Just so that I can be Joe Rogan. There's something to that. Martin S says you need to shill some crypto. Yes, indeed, I do. Although, really, the thing with streams is to have a video game playing here. I'm down in the little corner here, and I'm just going on and on and on without any kind of constructive thought. And every time somebody in the chat challenges me about the slightest thing, you can hear me typing. Here, let's check it out, guys. Guys, because I'm referring to it's just it gets very repetitive. I don't know why anybody would watch a stream, and yet they make great views. I don't get that. Jack says, and you should be on Twitch. Jack says, do you have to include this scene? I think I do. I don't have to, of course, it's a free country, but I feel like I do. It's the template that I am honoring by this story. And it's the center of that template. There is no such thing as a tentacle story without it. It's the centerpiece of those stories. So Michael Lombardo says an intimate 35 in Friday stream. People must be watching Jeopardy. Oh, well, it's a Friday night. People are out. They're out doing things. My surly houseboy is at some sort of weirdo concert. Won't be able to tend to my needs until later. Yeah, it's a Friday. I wasn't really expecting that much. Uh, let's see here. Currently reading, Andrew says, currently reading Dreadnought, Steve. Are all Robert K. Massey's works to the same high standard as this? If so, I may have found a new favorite historian. He's terrific. Absolutely terrific. Dreadnought is great, but so is everything else that he did. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. And he is fantastic. You can't go wrong with one of his books, big as they are. You, I trust, will be right there to second me when I tell a doubter, yes, Dreadnought is huge, and you will love it. You will fly through it. You'll want it to be longer. I trust that you will be able to say those three magic words. Steve is right. Guys, guys. I trust you'll be able to say that. Let's all keep in mind what Andrew is saying. He took a recommendation of mine and he loved it. Because Steve is always right. Anyway, Nick says it's kind of baffling how Andor is so much better than the other Disney. Exactly. This is the first thought I had when I watched the first couple of episodes. Fresh from Kenobi, I watched the first couple of episodes and was blown away. Just blown away, especially when you look in the fine print and see that a lot of people are involved, the same people are involved in both shows. It feels like alternate universe levels of quality. I don't understand it at all. Not at all. I said the same thing about Marvel Studios, their recent Werewolf by Night, that the one-shot special Werewolf by Night, filmed in black and white. It honestly doesn't feel like it was made by anybody who was working even in the same country as the people who made Ms. Marvel. Oh God, the chat is flying by. I thought there were only a few of you. Trish says Robert K. Massey is amazing. Steve is right. Let's leave out the part about Robert K. Massey, okay? He's a loser. Just repeat, Steve is right. That sounds wonderful. Guys. I ain't finna read that. Says I read a great short story about a girl getting intimate with maggots. That was great, but like gross stuff. Andrew says Dreadnought is actually a reread, Steve, and I can say Steve is right. Okay, well, you could have led with that instead of all the mouthy bits about a reread. Nobody's interested in your opinion. I'm the only one who matters, guys. Steve is always right. That's all. That's all you have to do. You can say it over and over again. If you want to follow young Micah, you can have it tattooed somewhere. That's all you have to do. You say that. Although, if Steve is always right, what's Steve going to do about his sex scene? Will he be right no matter what he decides? I don't know. The only thing he knows for sure is that he loves to talk about himself in the third person. Let's see here. Jasper says, Steve, have you seen Dark on Netflix? No, I haven't. Jasper says, I think you need heavy therapy. I ain't finna read that. What did he? I thought ain't finna read that was praising me. He doesn't need therapy for that. Leo Percara says, hello, Steve. Do you like the TV show Atlanta? I've never seen it. Matt Sheridan, guys. It's the only thing I can do. I'm not going to vape. It's painful to watch these guys. I watched one the other night. The guy has 1.5 million subscribers. He never stopped vaping the whole time with his guest. And he never, very conspicuously, asked his guest whether or not it was okay to be breathing in his junk. It filled the studio. It looked like they were having a conversation in a London fog bank. And worse than that, he had one of those big vape tubes that makes a gurgling sound when you're sucking on it like some sort of perverted baby. It was grotesque. And I feel absolutely certain that the host who was doing that could have told the sound guy to edit out that sound. I feel certain that could have happened. He left it in. Revolting. No stream is interesting enough to make you put up with watching that. Watching these young guys just hang on these plastic tubes. Anyway, Jeff Messerman, Gadzooks, there was a whole industry devoted to dirty paperbacks in the 50s and 60s. Not one solid boudoir scene in the lot. There were solid boudoir scenes, yes. Scenes in the boudoir. But when those scenes got down to what came after, They fail. The, when the author decides, okay, well, I've done all that I can here. The dialogue has gotten tenser and flown faster, and now uh, I want to describe the next 20 minutes. I know what's coming later. I know it may change the relationship, but and I will write about that. But first, I want to describe what happens. A to B to C to D to E in the next 20 minutes. That also happens in the boudoir. And when that happens, when an author tries to describe that in the boudoir, they fail universally. I've never known them not to. So, what's the matter, baby? Look at your bright little eye. She's wide awake. What's the matter, baby? Huh? What's wrong? I'm just talking with my imaginary booktube friends. That's all. You've seen me do this before. Do you want to get up on the window? No. Oh. Oh. Uh, oh. Let's see here. Uh, Andrew says, "Can you just have the sex scene go from day to the next morning?" That's not a sex scene. That is what I've done 2 times so far in The Winding of the Way. I get right up to it, and then I think, you know what's coming. But the whole point that tentacle author was making to me was, this isn't one of these people isn't human. You don't know what's coming. That's why you describe it because you don't know. Uh, uh, Jasper says Hassan Piker leaves to go to the bathroom, take a bump of coke every 20 minutes. I know, notorious. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling. And some of the more whiny ones, these guys are champion self-pitiers. Oh my god, they whine like nobody's business to themselves. And their champion self-pitying justification is that they need to do stuff like that in order to keep going. I watch a couple of streamers who have the plastic vaping, but when they take a gigantic, I mean, it goes on for like a minute where they're sucking on this thing to fill their entire body with these noxious carcinogens. When they're done with that, they then have a substitute. They have a sort of a follow up that's a different device. It's a thin tube, explicitly narcotic, explicitly amphetamine. It's so revolting to see the gigantic cost that they're exacting on their bodies in order to do their streams. It just Wilson Shugart, we're talking about sex. Yes, we are, little dear. Maybe you should excuse yourself. Michael Lombardo, well, not familiar with tentacle-based sex scenes. What's a story with a well-written scene? Not a well-written sex scene. None of them do. Although some tentacle sex scenes can be effective in a stimulating kind of way, and maybe that's my point. Maybe that's the definition of an effective scene. But isn't that porn? If you asked, Philip Roth, are you writing porn during those scenes in his books? He'd have violently said no. Uh, Leo Percara says, I read an interview magazine did to Murakami. He said that he was always disappointed by his own books when they asked about this year's disappointments. Is that fake modesty, or do writers feel that? Murakami, I think, feels it. Yeah, I always think that's for real. I don't think he's fishing for compliments there. Uh, I don't know what to make of that. My jury is still very much out on him. Uh, Fizzle Beef says the best sex scene writer is Stephen King, but you were either you're joking or you don't know that earlier on in the stream somebody nominated him for the worst. Uh, Jasper says the only streamer who doesn't seem to do coke or vape is Ludwig Agren and Atriotic. Yeah, but I'm okay. I don't. I watch a lot of these people, and I don't get why people do, unless it's uh, the just the feeling of watching somebody you think is cool playing a game. Other than that, I don't know why anyone would watch it. If there are 100 people, if there are 100 people watching, or 200 people leaving comments, then your hero is never going to see your comment. He has mods for that. He's never going to respond to it. And he doesn't have a text in mind and couldn't put a coherent thought together if he had a gun to his head. So why? I don't know. I mean, I watch some. Sometimes I'll watch 3 or 4 from one streamer, and then I think, well, okay, I can let this one go. I can let this one go. I don't need to watch this guy anymore. Uh, let's see here. Ain't finna read that, says Valerie and her week of wonders. by Václav Nesval did it right. He just kept to dialogue, getting more rapid and disingenuous, as if something more interesting is going on. Yeah, but at a certain point, the dialogue stops, and then the author keeps going. They keep describing it. Uh, Andrew Russell says Murakami's sex scenes are 100% cringy. The Spaminator, read the book Womb this week. Read the book Womb this week. Supposed to be extreme horror. The sex, it was supposed to be disturbing. It was laughably over the top and goofy, stupid. I don't think I've read Womb. I know I haven't. Deep in the Read says use your sex scene as a highbrow metaphor for what's wrong with the world today, so you win a literary award. Literary dudes have tried that. They've tried everything to make these work, and they don't. No approach that I've ever seen has worked. Jasper says Hassan Piker once pulled up my comment and yelled at me. Okay, but how did that make you feel? I don't know how that made you feel. Uh, I mean, did that cement your watching for a while? Did that make you feel more involved? Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't be tempted to leave a comment on one of his. The thing about these guys, the streamers that I'm thinking of, is that they are so characterized by their aficionados as the deep thinkers of the internet, the really smart, really informed, think on their feet intellects of the internet, and they're almost universally rather noticeably dumb. I, I don't know. I'm constantly exploring things to watch on YouTube because it's much easier. Most of the content is ad hoc and low production value, much like my own. So if I'm working on something, I can have that on, and it's not the same thing as a Netflix show where I really feel the good ones. I really feel like I should sit and pay attention to this. Uh, yes, D nodding. The sex cauldron. I thought they closed that place down. Matt Sheridan. What do you think is going to happen to Brittany Griner? What do you mean? What's going to happen to her? Oh, are you wondering, is she going to be killed in prison? Uh, Is that she's not going to be freed? If that's what you're thinking, not going to be exchanged for anybody. Uh, do you think you're wondering, is she going to survive? She might not. Uh, Certainly, not a pretty picture to think about. Deep in the Reads, good time to ask what you think of 120 Days of Sodom. Well, there's a whole lot more going on there. As Jason Harrigan would tell you, there's a whole lot more going on there than just that, or I wouldn't care for it at all. Uh, Jack says, is it easier if you think of it as porn? Probably it is. Probably that's the problem here. Except that, isn't that two different kinds of readers? Just completely? Aren't I? Aren't I? Wouldn't that be the equivalent of me writing? I don't know. Well, writing a science fiction novel like I'm doing, and then reaching a certain point and thinking, okay, now I'm going to shift gears and just include a whole bunch of stats, a whole bunch of algorithms for 7 pages, and then I'm going to go back to writing science fiction. I mean, isn't it a totally different thing? I guess maybe it's not. I've never really been all that engaged in the non-porn parts of any porn that I've ever read. I don't know if you have. It seems to me like I know clearly where the author is putting his effort. It seems a little weird to do that when I have this big, complicated, and I hope very touching story to tell. It feels like a digression. I just don't know. I don't know if I should just try it anyway and see. It's just I know this is all fiction. It's all fantasy, but every single time that I have read tentacle porn, thanks to Autumn Amore, I read a lot of it. When it gets down to the moment in question that we're talking about, what in the terms of the story, I never see it as anything other than completely unbelievable that the human involved wouldn't die, that the human would be ripped in pieces. That's what would happen. And it doesn't ever happen. And so I'm thinking, in my story, I'm thinking, well, okay, am I sure that my kid would survive it? And I'm not at all sure. Don't know. I don't know. This I wasn't really. I'm not putting an unrealistic burden on all of you guys. Guys. I'm not doing that. But I was kind of hoping that this would clarify my thinking. But it doesn't matter because we're almost done. The stream is almost over. It's a Friday night. There's hardly anybody here. We've all got to go out and get drunk. So, but let's keep going here. Michael Lombardo, are you sure they're vaping? Maybe the heating system is broken, and you're going you've seen their frigid cold breath. It can happen. No, they've got the device right there. They've all got a different kind of device. There are all kinds of devices that you can use. I noticed that the ones for a while that were really popular that looked like memory sticks for a computer aren't as popular anymore because the whole point is, you know, anything that I feel like doing, I'm right. If you don't like it, you're a bigot. So anything I can do openly. So now the devices are very noticeably not anything else. They can't be anything else than nicotine delivery systems, and they do it, constantly. It's all just constantly. Uh, uh, let's see here. Leo Percara says, "What about the Pasolini movie of 120 Days?" I'm not the right person to talk to about Pasolini movies. Trish says, "What's the point with tentacle romance? The sex or the science fiction?" Exactly, exactly. I put a lot of work into the science fiction elements of The Winding of the Way. Maybe so much work that I find it a little bit boring or even betrayal to then introduce porn aspects. There's plenty of sexy stuff in The Winding of the Way, plenty of it. But I'm not talking about sexy encounters between my two characters or any other characters. I'm talking about that scene, the scene that I'm just every time I get close to it, I swerve away from writing it. And if I'm going according to plan for NaNoWriMo, that's what I will write tonight. If I don't write it tonight, then I'm going to have to admit to myself that I'm not going to write it at all because I have brought the subject, I have brought the plot up to another precipice. The last two times I backed away and wrote something interesting instead. If I don't, if I back away tonight, then I don't. The story doesn't call for any other setup. Uh, oh, let's see here. Andy Curly Book says intimacy can add a story without being solely porn or being poorly written. Romance authors have been proving this for decades. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. I'm not talking about intimacy. Yeah, romance writers have been writing intimacy really well for decades. You're right. So of non-romance authors. I'm not talking about intimacy though. I'm talking about a sex scene. Intimacy, sure. I'm talking about what happens after that. I'm talking about what about the 20 minutes that happens after that and before the aftermath, where authors feel the need to write those 20 minutes. And I've never seen that done well. That never progresses the plot. It never deepens character. And to me, it feels like a completely pointless digression. And I'm going to be at that point tonight unless I avoid it again. Uh, Ain't finna read that says sounds like write you don't to want to write porn. I can't sympathize. Wilson Shugart, I have wrestled with the angel and am stained with light. Oh God, isn't it past your bedtime, darling? Jack says, "Are you hitting the town tonight?" No, my surly houseboy is, but I don't. I no, no, I'm not. I have a fun night in store. Funner than hitting the town could possibly be. Could possibly be. So, deep in the reads, maybe allow your story to take a new direction that doesn't involve sex. Well, yeah, the whole story exists. It's I just feel obliged to do that. Maybe I will give it a try for an hour tonight and see how it goes. I just or well, no, there's every approach to make these things endurable has been done, and none of them have ever worked. Uh, Trish says, "Can you make the alien Amish?" My alien is as far away from Amish as you can get. But this is uh uh Spaminator says, "I have to disagree with your writer friend. If it's meant to be touching, don't make it gratuitous." Uh well, I don't know whether I need to do it at all. I mean, twice now I have led the reader there and then let them figure out. But I'm not sure if it's sex between a human and a non-human, maybe they can't figure it out. Maybe I should describe it. RTLLTR says, "Any plans for a visit to Vermont anytime soon?" Well, there aren't any plans, but it's a little tricky because the richest family has a dog now, and that makes things a little tricky. There's no way to know how the two dogs would react to each other until you do it. And if it's a catastrophically bad reaction, there's no way to fix that in the context of a visit. So if it's a catastrophically bad reaction, it would mean that we would get right back in the car and subject whoever comes to get us to another, batch of hours on the road all the way back to Boston. That I don't know that that's a risk worth taking. Andrew Russell, for the sex scene, if you focus on the characters' thoughts and emotions during sex rather than the physical aspect, would that work? No, it won't work because thoughts go away. In that 20 minutes, thoughts go away, as you well know, as all of us know. Writers, every writer who's ever tried this knows it. I just think that they are trying to convince themselves that this is. I think it's the human propensity for self-deception, that they they think everything up to and then everything after was meaningful, intensely meaningful. But during, there's nobody present during. There's raw biology during. The only defense here is that in my case, the raw biology of the two characters is radically different. Maybe that is justification enough to do it. Uh, let's see him. Leo Picard says, "Is Elizabeth Holmes' sentence fair?" I don't know what sentence. Matt Sheridan says, "My night will involve Bugliosi's book on JFK." One of the things that I will be reading tonight is almost as heavy to read, and it's not on ebook. So I have to struggle with a gigantic brick of a thing. Michael Lombardo, I would guess the closest analogy to the tentacle scene would be like an orgy, multiple partners, but in this case, the multiple tentacles are, shall we say, filling in for extra people. That is the hallmark of a tentacle sex scene, is that at its, so to speak, climax, uh, every hole's a goal. Every orifice is busy at the same time. And so these scenes, no matter who's writing them, they always make the same point. The human recipient is brought to a level of ecstasy that even the most sex experienced of them has never come close to experiencing, because it's all at the same time. Uh, and I guess I could try that. I guess I could try that. It's just in those scenes, not we're getting into the innards of tentacle sex scenes. In those scenes, the possessor of the tentacles is always in icy control. So there's no just let go and be mindless passion with them, because if there were, the human recipient would die. The human recipient would rip to pieces. And to me, although those I have noticed that those scenes can be effectively done, that always seems to me to limit their effectiveness, because one of the people involved is putting stamps in an album. One of the people involved is in complete intellectual control the whole time. And that uh, anyway, we have to wrap this stream up. I didn't have anything profound to talk about anyway tonight. Matt Sheridan says Mark's new dog is a German Shepherd. Yes, beautiful German Shepherd, who is by now probably 3 or 4 times Frida's size. So there, I would love to meet Dixon. I would love to smooch his face. Deep in the read, some sci-fi novels have diagrams inserted into the text, right? Maybe make your sexy and elaborate diagram. That's an act of defeat. That's an admission of defeat. I think I think the way out here is um, to shift the whole register from science fiction, which is basically what I'm writing, or science fiction romance, uh, to porn, and then shift it back again. I think that's the only way to do this, and I don't know that I don't know that I want to do that. First of all, I don't know that I can do that, and I also don't know, does that retroactively make the whole thing porn? Uh, I mean, if you were reading a long historical novel uh, about, let's say, the 1920s, the birth of aviation, so barnstormers, biplanes, that sort of thing, something like Gentleman of Adventure by Ernest K. Gunn. You were reading a big historical novel about the dawn of aviation. And then in the middle of that book, there's a scene where the characters break away from what they're talking about and just talk about how evil the Jews are for 7 pages. It's a 600-page novel. For 7 pages, the characters stop what they're doing and talk about how evil the Jews are. And then they return to the plot and they never talk about it again. If you wrote a book like that, uh, anyone would say it's an anti-Semitic novel. Those 7 pages would be all that was necessary. Anyone who read it would then call it an anti-Semitic novel. Is the same thing true with porn? Where if you're writing a story that's 300 pages long and 7 of those pages are porn, does that mean people are going to say, and nobody's ever going to see this story, but does that make it a porn novel? I don't know. I don't know. I've never had to think about it before. Jack says this discussion needs to progress to emails. Well, it needs to stop one way or another. When it goes to email or not, it has to stop. We have to wrap this up. Spaminator cephalopod sex is pretty violent in nature. I lost the rest of it, but I agree. Ain't finna read that says LOL should have wrapped the stream up at the start if you want to avoid streaming transmitted diseases. Andy Curly Books, since when has control and sex not been a winning combination in a sex scene? It seems like a requirement in the kind of sex scene that I've set myself up for. Maybe I should just go with that. Maybe I should just go with that. Uh, Andy Curly Book says, I don't think sex cheapens a book unless it's cringy drivel. Oh, sure it does. Sure it does. The lead up doesn't, and the aftermath doesn't. But the point that I've been trying to make in this Stevestream, which we have to wrap this up, is that it's always cringy drivel. When the writer takes you past the lead up and describes the next 20 minutes, it's always cringy drivel. It's always awful. Matt Sheridan says, how do you feel about Elon nuking Twitter? I'm keeping an eye on the story. It's absolutely fascinating. I agree completely with, I don't agree with the so-called progressives who jumped on the story and said, as if we needed a better demonstration of why we should tax the rich. I don't agree with that. There are other justifications for that, but I very much agree with the people who've commented. Let's remember this the next time a billionaire says they want to take control and improve anything. They're dumb. So let's not let any person in the country could have done a better job. Let's not give them this kind of power again. But anyway, we have to turn this around. We have to wrap up this Stevestream. Michael Lombardo, would it be easier to think instead of how Mr. Fantastic uses his abilities to get into all the nooks and crannies of Sue Storm? Well, I presume that that's possible. That it was only hinted at in one Fantastic Four panel that I know of, and the letters page was full of people objecting to the hint. It was just a hint. That's all. And the writers had the ultimate out of saying they were in the negative zone at the time. The writers had the ultimate out of saying, "Well, Reed was just out of his head. The radiation affected him." That sort of thing. Deep in the Reed says, "What about novels that use sex as a way to illustrate debauchery/excess, like Tropic of Cancer or The Soft Machine?" Well, yeah, but then they're making some sort of, the scenes are still cringy drivel. But even then, they're there to make some sort of moralistic point one way or another. As a natural exponent of just a story, a relationship story, I don't see how to do it. And maybe that's all that I'm really saying, is that I'm wailing that I don't see how to do it. I am on ultimately unfamiliar territory. Maybe that's the answer to my question. I should just try it a few times and see what happens. Wilson is back. He hasn't left yet. Glory and ironic comedy, and go hard for It's So Bad That It's Good. It seems awful tired, but I can give it a try. I will do something tonight. I will do something tonight. But we have to end the Stevestream, this extra sexy Stevestream. I'm gonna wrap this up and do it. I'm gonna try to write that scene tonight. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if anybody's watching my word count progress on Nanowrimo, and I don't think any of you are. You will know for sure how it went, because if my word count total is 500 after this, you'll know that I tried it and ground it out and didn't like the experience. If it's 1,700 or more, then you'll know that I once again punted and am just wrote a real scene and really enjoyed it. So I don't know. I don't know which it'll be, but I have to stop the Steve stream either way. So I've got a lot to do before I get to that point. But thank you all. Uh, thank you all for joining me. It was very nice to get your thoughts on the subject. It helped a bit, so we'll see. We'll see what so to speak comes of it. Anyway, oh God. Thank you, and also thank you for sparing time on a Friday night when you all have a lot of more interesting things to do, except for Wilson. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I'll see you all in the funny papers. Thank you, BookTube.